A very good evening and of course welcome aboard on to the HBN at 9 News edition with me, Dave Kerry. Stories we have lined up for you are touching on the social, economic and even the social welfare of this country, even as we face a tough economic time now. Moving very fast to our first story today. President William Ruto has jetted back into the country after the conclusion of his 5-day foreign tour to Europe. Ruto, accompanied by his wife Rachel, arrived Thursday morning at the JKIN, was received by top leaders and security chiefs. He will be chief guest during the launch of For the Record, a book by Defense Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale. Let's get the story in full detail on how the trip was outside the country.
The head of state left the country on May 5th to attend the coronation of King Charles III in the United Kingdom before departing for Netherlands and Israel. During his tour, he held bilateral meetings with King Willem-Alexander of the Netherlands, where they agreed to enhance trade in horticulture, livestock, tea, coffee. President Ruto and King Alexander also discussed the climate change challenge, Kenya's agenda for green growth, and wildlife conservation. The Netherlands will continue supporting Kenya in developing arid and semi-arid lands, rural domestic water supply and sanitation, health, infrastructure development, and agricultural research, Ruto said. The president also appealed to foreign investors to inject their finances into the affordable housing project, preventive healthcare, MSMEs, and the creative economy. He said the country was facing a shortage of houses, especially in major cities. We will provide land for the construction of the houses for free to reduce the cost of production, he said. In Israel, Ruto met President Isaac Herzog and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He toured several agricultural projects in the country and discussed areas of mutual interest to the nations. Israel's modern farming technology will sustainably drive this hugely transformational agenda, met the President of Israel Isaac Herzog at his residence in Jerusalem, agreed to expand our cooperation in trade, agriculture, security, and technology, he said. Reporting for HBN at 9, Masi Kasema.
Now to Safaricom. Safaricom, that is PLC, has reported a 22.2% decline in profit after tax for the year ended March 2023. This has been attributed to inflation pressures on customers spending high investment cost in Ethiopia. Even so, the revenue growth was underpinned by robust growth in M-Pesa and data revenue. Safaricom started operations in the Ethiopian market in October last year, becoming the first private operator in one of Africa's largest telecoms market. Now let's get the full story on how the Safaricom has been growing on in Ethiopia.
M-Pesa now contributes to 39.7% of Safaricom's revenue and mobile data contributes to 18.2%. The telco reported a net earning of 62.3 billion Kenyan shillings during the year under review compared to 67.49 billion in the same period last year. The firm's service revenue closed the year at 297.2 billion. That is, adjusted for mobile termination rates impact, 5.72% up year on year. Without adjustment, it is 295.2 billion. This is the firm's third straight drop in a row after it posted a 6.8% profit retreat in 2021 to Kenyan shillings 68.67 billion, which was the first in 9 years. Safaricom PLC has announced plans to launch mobile money in the Federal Republic of Ethiopia and make the unit its subsidiary. In a public notice to shareholders on Thursday ahead of its full year results, the telco said it has completed talks with the Ethiopian government on how to set up the mobile financial service. In compliance with applicable legislations, the consortium through Safaricom Ethiopia will set up a new entity, Safaricom ETMSF, to acquire payment instrument issuer license, that is PIIL, and will offer mobile financial services under the M-Pesa brand. The telco said this in a notice. It added that by virtue of holding the controlling stake in the consortium, the Ethiopia business will be a subsidiary of Safaricom PLC. State-owned Ethio Telecom had until then enjoyed a monopoly in Ethiopia Africa's second most populous country with an estimated 118 million people. Safaricom is 35% owned by Kenyan government and 40% by South Africa's Vodacom, while the remaining shares are publicly listed. In the year 2021, as part of plans to revamp the telecommunication sector, Ethiopia issued a tender to award 2 licenses to private telecommunication operators. One license was awarded to consortium led by Safaricom, which offered 850 million and promised to invest 8.5 million over 10 years. Ethiopia also launched the process for a sale of 40% stake in Ethiopia Telecom, where the plans have since been.
Now moving across the borders to DRC, Kenyan troops together with medics and locals in Tongo, Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, opened up Mulimbi Kabizo Road after landslide following heavy rains. Officials said collective efforts facilitated emergency medical evacuation and movement of goods and services to and from Goma, promoting social economic development of the region. The troops said EACRF appreciates the collective response and remains committed to a citizen-centric approach to security by collaborating with state and non-state actors for sustainable peace and stability in eastern DRC. It comes amidst raging floods and landslides that have left hundreds dead and many more displaced. Let's get the story in full detail.
10 people were killed in a landslide in eastern DRC, Lubero territory, overnight on Wednesday, local authorities said. These are the latest victims of recent heavy rains that have killed hundreds in floods in the broader region. A fresh downpour loosened the earth on a hillside above a village in Veilak area, burying the victims as they slept in their houses below. The death toll from the Kalehe floods stand at 426 as of Wednesday morning, with around 1,000 people still missing, according to Desire Yuma Machumu, head of South Kivu Red Cross. He said that aid workers expect to stay in the remote mountainous area for several weeks and are preparing for a possible cholera outbreak, which poses as a major risk to survivors due to the lack of sanitation. This came as Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi on Tuesday gave the biggest warning yet. The EACRF will have to leave the country by June 2023 if they are not effective on the ground.
Nous ne savons pas dépêcher autant de corps avec l'urgence qui se pose. On recherche les corps avec les bêches, avec les mains. Mais si on avait des véhicules ou des appareils ou je sais pas quoi qui peuvent nous aider à les faire rapidement, ça pouvait être bien.
Tuko tunateseka hapa, mtoni litubebaka manyumba, tukakimbia. Mtu akitukutana munjia sasa ndo anatupatia kakitu ndo mateso tuko nayo hapa. Tunahangaika, tunakosa bashe, tunakosa chungu, tunakosa sahani, tunakosa chakula, vyote tunakosa hapa. Tunahangaikia mwa hii pori, na hii pori ni ya watu, tunaingia amo, tulikimbiaka basi tukaingia mwa hii pori, ndo shida tuko nayo hapa.
While on a visit to Gaborone in Botswana, where he has pushed for a Plan B from the South African Development Corporation, SADC, to send troops, the Congolese head of state accused the EACRF of cohabitating with the rebels after the regional troops declined to enter combat. The head of state said that under the terms of the EACRF's mandate by next June, if the results of its mission are not satisfactory, this contingent, which came to the rescue of the DRC, will have to leave Congolese territory for good. The Congolese presidency said this at the meeting with Botswana counterpart Mugwesi Masisi. The mandate of the EACRF is ending in June. If by the time we assess that the mandate was not fulfilled, we will send those contingents home with honor and thank them for having tried to bring their share of contribution to peace in DRC. The EACRF first deployed in November 2022 include
Now, still outside the Kenyan borders today, fighting in Sudan's capital escalated on Wednesday with fires, clashes, and airstrikes. But rival military factions were reported to be close to a ceasefire agreement in talks in Saudi Arabia. Residents reported ground battles in several neighborhoods of Khartoum between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF), as well as heavy gunfire in the north of Omdurman and the east of Bahri, two adjacent cities separated from Khartoum by the River Nile. The army has been pounding targets across the three cities since Tuesday as it tries to root out RSF forces that have taken control of large residential areas and strategic sites since early in the conflict that erupted on April 15th. Negotiations aim to secure an effective truce and allow access for aid workers and supplies after repeated ceasefire announcements failed to stop the fighting. Let's get the story in full detail.
After days of no apparent movement, a mediation source told Reuters on Wednesday that the negotiations had made progress and a ceasefire agreement was expected soon. A second source familiar with the talks said a deal was close. Talks continued late in the night. U.S. Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland earlier said U.S. negotiators were cautiously optimistic about securing a commitment to humanitarian principles and a ceasefire, but were also looking at appropriate targets for sanctions in the varying functions did not back this. The conflict has created a humanitarian crisis in Africa's third largest nation by area, displacing more than 700,000 people inside the country and prompting 150,000 to flee to neighboring states. It has also sparked unrest in Sudan's western Darfur region. The UN World Food Programme said that up to 2.5 million more Sudanese were expected to fall into hunger in the coming months because of the conflict, raising the number of people suffering acute food insecurity to 19 million. Since the battle began on April 15th, the RSF have dug in across Khartoum neighborhoods, set up checkpoints, occupied state buildings, and placed snipers on rooftops. The army has been using airstrikes and heavy artillery to try to dislodge them. The RSF on Tuesday said the historic presidential palace in central Khartoum, which has symbolic importance and is in strategic area that the RSF says it controls, had been hit by an airstrike and destroyed, a claim the army denied. Drone footage filmed on Wednesday and verified by Reuters appeared to show the building, known as the Old Republican Palace, intact, though smoke could be seen coming from the southeast edge of the palace compound. The fighting has left more than 600 people dead and 5,000 injured, according to the World Health Organization, but the real figure is thought to be much higher. Witnesses have reported seeing bodies strewn in the streets. Most hospitals have been put out of service, and a breakdown of law and order has led to widespread looting. Fuel and food supplies have been running low. Aid agency Islamic Relief said many aid operations in Darfur and Khartoum remained suspended due to extreme insecurity. It plans to provide aid to thousands of people in Al Gezira state, southeast of Khartoum, where some 50,000 people have fled, as well as people in parts of Khartoum state and North Kordofan, where fighting has raged. Conflicts are not new in Sudan, a country that sits at a strategic crossroad between Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, and the volatile Sahel region. Although most unrest in the past occurred in remote areas, the United Nations has projected that 5 million additional people will need emergency assistance inside Sudan, while 860,000 are expected to flee to neighboring states. Reporting for HBN News at 9, I'm Habiba Mohammed.
And now to our final story. Police have netted a consignment of alcoholic drinks bearing the fake Kenya Revenue Authority KRA stamps in Pipeline, that is in Nakuru County. According to police officers, the seized goods are worth an estimated 730 Kenya shillings. The authority said the government will have lost tax amounting to 342,482 Kenya shillings. The consignment had a total of 125 cotton filled with assorted alcoholic drinks, police said. The raid was conducted by detectives from the Economic Crimes Unit assisted by KRA officials. At least 120 cartons of assorted alcoholic drinks affixed with counterfeit KRA stamps were recovered, police added. In the meantime, efforts to arrest the owner of the unlicensed business are underway. Now, that was the last story in our news edition tonight at HBN here in Helicopter TV. Remember, after the break, John Kumu is coming right in with the sports news here at Helicopter TV. For me tonight, mine is to wish you a good night. See you tomorrow, same time, same place.